Good morning. This is Talking Devils. I'm your host, Wayne Barton, joined by Manchester United legend Paul Parker. Good morning, Paul. How are you doing?
Good morning, Wayne. I'm fine, thank you very much. Only
Yeah.
one miserable bit of Christmas. I had to watch West Ham at London Stadium.
um, Thankfully, I don't think we get many West Ham fans here, so I'm not going to grumble too much about it. Apart from, I think your wife's a West Ham fan, right? Oh, my wife's family also. If you're watching, Paul doesn't mean it. He loves you really. I don't even think West Ham fans like that ground. I think we've talked about this before. Got a lot
Mm,
of, like I said, West Ham in-laws, and they detest that new ground. But they're doing all right, I guess. I don't know. How did they get on at the weekend when you were there?
late goal to Fulham.
Yeah,
Late goal, and they're in serious trouble.
yeah. Oh well. United are not in serious trouble for a change. That's very nice. We're talking about them. I think they're fifth in the table after their win against Newcastle the other night. Before we get started, a couple of things that I normally do my daily roundup of news, but there's no transfer gossip today. There's no transfer gossip, including Manchester United. I can't believe it, considering the number of players associated with the club and a number of transfer rumours that have been circulating in recent weeks. Um, no notable sort of on this day occurrences in games in United history. One birthday to celebrate. Happy birthday to Danny Higginbotham, former United youngster, and now obviously Stoke City legend. And now he's gone on to be a prominent pundit in the US market. I was there in the US recently, and he was on their coverage there, and he was very good indeed, and a good mate as well. So if you're watching, Danny, good morning and happy birthday. And before we start talking about the football, I wanted to have a little comment because I'm going to be putting some podcasts that I did with Paddy Barkley on the channel. I did a radio show with Paddy 6 years ago, nearly. There was a station called, I don't know if you remember it, Paul. If you might be in Singapore at the time. There's a station set up for a short period of time, Love Sport
Mm,
Radio. It was set up to be like a uh, com- contender to Talksport. I think that was the idea behind it, and they commissioned Paddy and I to do a short series, 9 episodes. It would probably got commissioned for a second. In fact, I know it would have done. Um, so it went really well. It was a series that talked about Manchester United. It was like episodic. It talked about certain players, certain moments in United history. We did 9 episodes of that, Paddy and I, and I'm sure we were going to do a second series. I think Paddy even got commissioned for his own Thursday or Friday afternoon, maybe even Thursday and Friday afternoon show he did. He was on there from like 12 till 3, and he was enjoying it. He was still in post retirement, still enjoying it. That was in central London, and I went down and recorded some episodes there with a guy called Matt Beadle who did the introductions and hosting for it. Really good experience. But the station ran into difficulties through COVID. It like came at the worst possible time for it, and they were unable to commission anything, and they shut down. So I've been looking for those episodes of that podcast, for the radio show, for ages, and I managed to find them, and I'm going to put them on the channel in the new year at some point. I was just looking back because I think it was 6 years ago this month when I was recording them with Paddy, and it just brought to mind. Um, and as I tend to do at the end of a year, get a little bit reflective about the events of that year, and it seems crazy because so much has happened. But the year started with Paddy losing his life, and just still hits me now. Anyway, let's talk about cheerier stuff. Manchester United won against Newcastle United, Paul. But I mean, talk about a war of attrition. That game was a tough watch. Although we talked about the Villa game and we talked about the defeat, and we said, well, not all of this is on Amorim. The United actually played well enough to probably get a result from it, and we weren't really tough on Amorim because we had so many players out injured. And this time around, he broke kids in towards the end of the match. I'm not still convinced by the timing of some of those subs. We'll talk about them in a little bit. But they got over the line. It was a real tough slog in the second half because of the injuries that they had. Mount had to go off at half time, so United's attacking outlet was especially reduced once Šeško went off, and it was again left to Cunha to run that line, and he looked a little bit frustrated, but also played very well in carrying what little threat United did have. But it all went through him, and United were packed in defence. You don't normally see them that packed in defence at Old Trafford. You know what I mean? It's like so weird to see it. Having said that, Newcastle just didn't have any cutting edge. Didn't look particularly brilliant, even though they dominated enough to deserve a result from the game. But I suppose when we're looking at signs of progress, he changed the system. He went to a four-man defence. One of the biggest changes was putting Dogo on the right, and it was the match-winning decision. He cut him from the right, I guess, and scored with a great goal in there. And then United stuck it out for the rest of the game. What did you make of it? Because, I look at it and think, if you look at the basis of a game, you say one team scored a goal, the other team didn't, so they deserve to win the game. You can't really argue with that, considering United had so many players out and then injuries through the game as well. It wasn't. It's obviously a good result. I'm not sure about the performance still. Do you know what I mean? I think, is it resolute? Is it a good thing that we got through it? It's got to be a good thing that we got the result. And I guess a plus for the manager, because we navigated through a tough water that, we might not have done maybe a year ago. We might have collapsed in that situation. What did you make of it?
Well, I think generally football's a bit of a muddle anyway, what's going on, especially, you look at it, you look at the three subs that Newcastle brought on to chase the game. If you're a Newcastle fan, you would be maybe saying at least two of them should have been starting that game. If you come to Old Trafford, and Newcastle are always desperate to beat Manchester United, desperate to beat them at Old Trafford, and yet at least two of their three that come on, because when you looked at it, you thought yourself, hold on a minute, why haven't they started?
Yeah.
I'm saying three of them, but I'm not being that, generous. I'm saying two out of the three.
Yeah.
And then, but I looked at it how they started, and it wasn't that bad, to be perfectly honest. It was definitely disciplined. Attacking wise, was quite well structured. Dorgu on the right hand side shouldn't have surprised a lot of people, because he did that a lot for Lecce.
Yeah.
So when there was talking and there was like saying, they were surprised by it, they shouldn't have been, because he's played a lot of his football from the right, coming in on his left hand side.
Made his debut. His debut for United was on that position as well.
Yeah, but he just hasn't done it enough, and he looked very, very comfortable doing that.
Yeah.
But still, there was still those, always still those moments, but that just showed up a little bit more in the second half, and even more so after the substitutions, really. You just can't get away with it, get away from talking about it, because it changed the game. Yeah. And like you say, if Newcastle had anything about them, they would have come away with something. And maybe it was a little bit of luck that was needed at that given time, really, in this period of time. But United playing Newcastle at home, everyone's in doubt about what's going to happen next. And then, when they get over the line with 3 points. So then you have to now look at the next game, which is even bigger now, an even bigger game, that game. And it's the kind of game which hopefully he understands how big this game is, in the sense of not so much about Manchester United, it's about Leeds and what they put into it, and just making the. Sorry,
Wolves is next.
Wolves is next. Sorry, Leeds is the one I'm thinking about. Yeah. Leeds is a big one, but Wolves is, I'm going to say, is even bigger, because you do not want to be giving any points away to Wolves. You just don't at this moment in time. You don't want United to become even more of a talking point, that Wolves are going to get something out of them. And after just recently playing them as well, and that's one of their worst performances in a little while. But Wolves, by the way, since that time, they've had decent performances without maybe luck or maybe getting a rubber green, whatever way you want to say it. But them coming again to where they've got nothing to lose, they all know what's happening at the end. So there's certain players who are playing for themselves and looking at, if not this window, they're looking at next window, still about playing in this league.
Yeah. No, yeah, it's going to be a tough one. Just a few bits to talk about Newcastle. First of all, we'll talk about the goal. it's funny because earlier in the game he'd set up a chance for Šeško with his right foot. He's not normally a good crosser. He'd set one up in the Villa game, probably his best cross while he's been at the club. But Cunha headed wide. And the cross for Šeško, he really maybe surprised him because it took him ages to sort of sort his feet out. Do you know what I mean? It was a nice moment, but the strike was beautifully clean, really nice volley into the net. And you said there, like, you know, he's done good things for Lecce from that side. And considering, you know, United, Amorim likes to favour a left-footed player from that side. He's done it with Ahmad. He's done it with Mbeumo. You've probably seen Dogu nail down his spot there for the interim while those players get back, haven't you?
Yeah, well, he'd be given another opportunity, and now it's just about Dogu finding a bit of consistency. We've seen some good patches, but we've seen some awful bits. A lot of that is down to confidence. So you're hoping that he can start well in his next game. That's what you're looking for. You're really seriously looking for him to start well, because technically, you can see he's got something there. He's not a bad defender. He's quite dogged in the way he defends. Doesn't make it easy for people he's up against. So he just needs a little bit of a run of form, really, in my opinion. But it's about nailing down a position for him where I think he knows where he's going to play week in, week out. And that's what some players just need that. They need to know that. So then they feel comfortable when they're playing. That, you know, because you sometimes find players that all of a sudden they come in, they're not sure what they're doing, and they either just are too scared to try anything, or they just make a pig's ear of everything because they're trying too hard to impress every time they touch the ball. So maybe, hopefully, Dorgu can actually move on. And this moment where there's players missing, he's going to get a bit of a run, and then it's up to the manager what he does next.
Do you think he'll stick with a four-man defence?
Common sense says yes. But he might just think that he can go back to it again, just to give it up like that, a drop of a hat. And then everyone's saying, virtually, everyone's going to come out, and a lot of people come out without using the words, but the words, the effect of, "Oh, we told you so."
Yeah.
Does he really want that? Is he going to be like most managers and be stubborn about the situation, as most managers are when it comes to things like tactics, formations, whatever it does go. That's how football has become, really. And to be honest, Sir Alex was stubborn in his way and what he believed that what he should have done. He had his idea how he wanted to play, and he stuck with it, regardless. So, and when he did try to change it, it never worked for him. So he went back to what he knew. In these circumstances, I should say, it was a positive. Yeah. It was a massive positive. I mean, because it just looked more stable. Everyone looked more comfortable. Martinez just looked great.
Yeah.
He just looked so comfortable. And it's not about tactics. It wasn't about the formation. It was just having him back in the team just made things look, he makes the game look easy. Unless someone winds him up, and that's the problem. But while he's been able to play football and he's calm, I mean, he's always going to be one of the best players on the pitch.
Heaven was good as well. He moved along the line. I thought it was very disciplined for him.
He was. He's playing games now, and every time he's playing, he's getting better and better. And I've said it 1,000 times, Wayne, is that he's a young boy. He's playing well. There's big decisions by the manager to make. Yeah. What is he going to do? Doesn't really want to yank him out too quick. There has to be a timing about it and how he does it if he's going to do it. But then he has to get him back in there, or he has to take him out and leave him with positive things in his head as well. It's a difficult time for him when it comes to that, especially the way he's playing.
Yeah. For me, I said it last week. I think he should be a starter now. I think he's played his way into that. He's played fantastically. I'm not going to really talk about it. I'm going to mention it because I tweeted about it in the game. In fact, no, I did tweet about it while it was going on. I still stand by it now. He does have a tendency, and Ten Hag did this a lot at certain points. to bring defenders off. There's no rhyme or reason, and he did it with 2 minutes to go, and before he knew that there was going to be 7 minutes of stoppages. And it was the double sub, which was Martinez and Shaw came off for Fredrickson and Malacia. I'm not going to criticize it. I'm not even going to throw that one to you. I'm highlighting it because I did tweet about it and said, what on earth is going on there? We could have easily lost that game from that situation. We didn't. We won and we held on, and those players have got a good experience for that. I think that was lucky rather than brave. I didn't see the sense of it, and those kind of subs still worry me. One other thing that happened during the match that I wanted to talk about, though, and give it some proper airtime, because I want to get your opinion on this, is the 8 minutes on the clock, 7 or 8 minutes on the clock. Eddie Howe tells the goalkeeper to go down. Ramsdale goes down, feigning injury, and they bring on the treatment, the physio and everything like that, and they go through the whole palaver. But what he's doing is sending instructions to, I think it was Lewis Hall. You could tell him going around the team, telling players to reposition and move around. And Newcastle got a lot more confident in the game after that, a lot more comfortable. Ironically enough, conceded the goal after that and a couple of chances. But they were a lot better after that, even with the evidence of 8 minutes, because they were very open before that. But I don't know what it is about it, and I think it might be because I've seen Newcastle United so many times under the Eddie Howe reign, and I've probably, in terms of financial output in a game of football with Manchester United and Newcastle, I've spent more money watching their goalkeeper on the ball or their goalkeeper doing something than anything else. Do you know what I mean? It's ridiculous. It's been Pope in the past. It's been other goalkeepers. And this is an obvious instruction because those goalkeepers will go down injured all the time and they never come off. So, yeah, I've got a really big bugbear about this, Paul, but I want you to give me your opinion on it first, because I don't know if it sits right. You know, he's obviously got it tactically wrong from the start. By all means, get the message to your players, but telling a goalkeeper to go down injured when he can't, you know what I mean? That's a player who can't be brought off, so you've stopped the game for that. I think it goes beyond gamesmanship a little bit. I don't know. What do you think?
No, you are right. And Eddie Howe has been doing that for years, and everyone kind of I've commentated on games, and I'm just laughing about it because he's doing it, and you know, and the goalkeeper's doing it, but the goalkeeper thinks he's all right, but everyone knows what's going on. The fans know what's going on, and the good fans don't really want that. They want to see, you know, managers manage and do their bits, but to do things like that, and to be honest, you know, it's what the game's becoming now. The people upstairs want the game stopped. They don't want it running all the time. They don't want the game without extra minutes added on. They want game stops because it fits all the narratives of XG and all that kind of stuff. That's what it does. So all these tactical moves, it gives these American, and let's call them analysts, something to talk about when they're doing it, when they're watching the game over there. They have that bit there where they can throw up all these different equations and, you know, and stuff like that. So it's what it's becoming. And in theory, what you should do, if a goalkeeper decides to go down, then he should be taken straight off the pitch. And then the substitute goalkeeper can come in straight away, something like that, just to keep it going, because there's a lot of people there who are paying good money, and all those kind of things is making life difficult for them if and when they want to get home, all those bits added on.
Yeah.
You know, and I know it sounds a small bit and it might sound a bit petty, but it does add up. And, you know, sometimes games when you're having to travel 3 hours and you've got an 8 o'clock kickoff, or you're traveling over a Christmas period and trains are suddenly gone from 5 an hour to 1 an hour. Yeah. All those little bits coming in over needless and being called gamesmanship in a way, really. So I don't know. They've got enough time and they're up and down that touchline all the time. They never stop talking. How much information do they want to keep putting? And people they've had for 5-6 days on a bounce on a training ground. Now in these kind of auditoriums, which they all fitted at most training grounds now for them to sit in and watch people muck about on graphs. So, no, it's just one of those things. But at the end of it, it makes everyone feel better that you actually go on and win the game anyway, regardless of Ramsdale going down.
Yeah, I did complain about it on Twitter, and like a few Newcastle fans going, "Oh, cry more." I'm like, well, we've won, we have won, so like that's not the point. I'm complaining about the principle of it, and I think for me, I'd go extreme with this because it's one of the worst things. I know you've got things that you hate in the game. This is one of the worst for me. I would make them play without the goalkeeper for 3 minutes. I'd just take him off and just go, right, if he's that injured, have a proper test with him before you bring him off, but play without him. So you got to play with 10 men. Someone's got to guard the net and he can't wear gloves. Do you know what I mean? I'd make him do that. Or if they're repeat offenders like this is, everyone gets assessed by an independent panel. You get a booking for the manager, you get a booking for the goalkeeper, and do the 3 minute thing. I'd take it that seriously because it's a form. It's gamesmanship. It's not cheating. It's like I know we've talked about cheating and rule bending before. This isn't cheating, but it's taking advantage of something it's really bad sportsmanship. Those rules are there to stop, to help players who are injured and stuff like that, and they do it in good faith with the goalkeepers. And that's against good faith. You're manipulating what it's there for, and I don't like it at all. I know that's one of his good things, and some people like that. Some people like the managers who push the boundaries like that. Mourinho used to do it a lot with countless examples. I guess Benitez was one. I just think it's anti-football. It's not there for the spirit of the game. If you've made a mistake, United aren't the most tactically intuitive team. You know what I mean? It's not like you've come up against Italy 1980. They're not gate locked in defence. Just like you said, you're there. That guy, his assistant, is never off the touchline. He's always talking. You get that message across, how hard is it to have plan 1 and plan 2 switch because you knew they've switched to a 4-man defence, which we weren't expecting. It takes 2 minutes of him, and it is so pathetic. He's running around telling different players. I just think, in that situation, it's live broadcast on TV. You don't even need an independent panel to look at it. You just look at what's going on. It's farcical, honestly. Let's talk about other comments because I'm just going to read these out because Christian Eriksen, who's not at United anymore, but he was talking about the comments that were made earlier in the year. I think there's a comment to the Times. So when Amorim came out earlier in the year and he said this is maybe the worst United team of all time, he said, Eriksen has said, yeah, that didn't help at all. I don't think it helped the players. Some stuff you can say inside and it's not too clever to say outside to put extra player and put an extra label on the players who were already trying to do their best. We did talk about this at the time. And I think there's a time and place for it. You can't even go public. I don't think there's a problem with going public, but it's the kind of thing, as I said at the time, I think I called it going nuclear, where you go like that, you press a button and you're doing it because you've exhausted all other options. Or Ten Hag did something very similar early on in his reign, and he called all the players back into training and ordered them to think, and he got a reaction out of them. Nothing Amorim said publicly has really got a reaction out of the players, and this one certainly didn't. They continued to be poor throughout the season. And we have talked about it before, and I think we even talked about it fairly recently. We've talked about whether or not he's a strong speaker and whether or not that affects the players, and you admitted that it probably would. It's an interesting thing for Eriksen to come out and talk about that, though, and to say, we were already trying our best, and it didn't help us. It put extra pressure on us. Do you think Eriksen's fair in coming out and saying what he said?
But he doesn't normally. Don't really hear of him ever say anything, do you? So obviously it bothered him, but it's hard for me to kind of say that I agree with him, but it's hard for me to say that I don't agree with him because it's a different time. I just know that if managers of my era had come out and said something publicly, of course it's going to hurt because no one liked anything like that criticism, and criticism nationwide would be terrible, would be awful. But what you want to do is me as an individual is to maybe sometimes I generally say is go and shove it back where the sun doesn't shine, and then you're waiting for that reaction from him to say well done. In certain ways you've proved me wrong. But that kind of reaction, a bit like the way the gaffer was in certain bits when he was very critical of players individually. He would say his bit, and then he's waiting for a reaction from the player. Is the player going to sulk, or is he going to come back strong and prove a point? And then you have to continue doing it. So I just think it's players of this era, of this where we are now, where virtually they're, in certain ways, they are told to be offended by everything. What's said about them, their idea of, you've gone to the media about me. Now I'm going to go and say something on my account with whatever platform. That's where we are at this moment in time. So I just think when I look at that time, or look at how it is, the best way to deal with it sometimes is to drag them in. If you're not happy with something you've seen the day before, you're dragged in the next day. Even if it, and it's happened a few times, happened wherever I played, that a manager wasn't happy or something, and what he would do is virtually use words to the effect of, well, you've ruined my day, I'm going to ruin your day, see you tomorrow morning. And then they'd walk out the dressing room, you'd sit there like arms out looking at each other, wanting to really slag him off, but you're not going to say anything because there's other members of staff in there, and everyone gets dressed slowly and quietly, and then just sulks away really and start again the next day. And what you get the next day is you're either sitting around and you're talking about it, or you run the lines on the pitch. You run and you run and you run.
Yeah.
And that was it. And then next game, the one thing that you won't be lacking will be commitment. So
yeah, no, and we saw that with Ten Hag. Like there was an instant reaction to that. I don't know if we saw that under Amrin, but I can't remember the exact game that came straight after that off the top of my head. But it was so early on, and he made repeated comments of that nature. And I just think, like, if you say it often enough, you are going to eat away at them. And
definitely. There's only maybe you can do a little small window of doing that. If you do it repetitively, what you do as well, other people get involved in it and start throwing their opinions up at it all the time. That's where we are again. That everyone, you can't have a go at people publicly anymore. People are taking offence to that when it has nothing to do with them. To be perfectly honest, so you have to go about it in a completely different way, in a way that that as a manager, as someone you're a line manager, you have to do it in a way that is quite official. In a way, it's nothing that steps outside the boundaries.
Yeah, and obviously you're talking about Sir Alex, and you're talking about players of your era who were made of sterner stuff. I think everyone universally agrees that players today are, sensitive is the wrong word. I think it's worse than that. I think sensitive is understandable, but if you had a sensitive generation, but I think it's more fragile. It might be the one, because they're built up to be stars too early. They don't earn anything, and we've talked about that so many times. All right, let's get on to Wolves. Just a quick one here, because I think it's an interesting question. When the seagulls follow the trawler. Good morning, mate. Hope you had a good Christmas. Great profile picture, by the way, with Eric Cantona. I think it's either the cliff or Littleton Road there.
God, yeah. I just realised what that is. Yeah,
you would have been knocking around there as well, Paul. Amazing stuff. What a picture. He said, how do you feel we played against without Bruno? Being the big topic of, like, how could United do without him? And they won, they got by. I would say that they got through it, right? I don't think that they were particularly good. It's a difficult sample size to say against Newcastle, right?
Yeah. It's amazing how some people get involved in this because of where they see Bruno is for Manchester United at this moment in time. Sir Alex got rid of some incredible players at an incredible time as well, when the club was still expected to win trophies, not talking about to qualify for Europe or trying to come back from 15th and do better the following season. It was still to win trophies, and he sold players who people were shocked. We were shocked when you were within the club, and the club's still done that. So what happens is that you let someone go of a certain quality, and what you do is you bring someone else in. You don't replace that player because you're not going to have the same player. You bring another person in who's going to add a different quality that's going to still make the team go in the right direction. And that's how it works. And I can only talk about that because I saw that happen while I was there when we was all in the changing room, and you just go, what? What's he doing? What's he doing? And all of a sudden, the team was still going there instead of just plateauing. It was going there. While there was still always those lot of people who want it to be negative because they've got rid of their favourite player. They want it to go backwards just so it proves a point and makes them feel better in their conversations. But the team is going to change at some point when he goes. And I think you'll find it generally happens if the manager's right, it will be a positive move. But Bruno not playing in that game, I saw a disciplined performance in midfield before the substitutions. I saw something a little bit more controlled. Defensively, especially in the first half, looked very good, quite comfortable. We talk about the centre halves. We talked about Heaven. We talked about Martinez. Luke Shaw did okay, but you can see Luke Shaw can't play left back up against anyone of any kind of pace because he still wants to pull people back. He's not running well, looks very uncomfortable. Dalot is another issue, but still we look at it that we looked at the midfield, and the midfield was disciplined because it helped the centre halves as well. With and without the ball, it helped the centre halves. So Bruno was missed in a way when people talk about but it didn't look like there was going to score enough goals. When in certain games and how that game could have been, there was a method. It worked out quite well. Anfield away 2 years ago, 0-0.
Yeah.
A great performance there without him. United had the best 2 opportunities in that game. So depending what you're looking at, really. But if you're looking a position to grow from without Bruno, I saw a good 35, 40 minutes against Newcastle to suggest that there's a good direction to go in that way.
We'll talk about Wolves in a second. I'm just going to close out these comments here. Niche fan said earlier, Belieber is playing really well at the AFCON. Yeah, and he's been in patchy form for Brighton, hasn't he? So they might be open to a sale in January. You never know. And when the Seagull says, I do have a picture with Paul too. It was at the Cliff. Great memories. How dare you come on this podcast, sir, and not put that picture of Paul up? You've got the picture of Eric up. Do you know what? I'm joking. I'll forgive you with that one. Maybe change it for Paul next time. No, the point is a great point. I remember we played, this is way, way back, when we played against Arsenal in 1997, Cantona was suspended, and it's been an accumulation of bookings rather than anything bad. And so we played Cole and Solskjaer up front at Highbury, and they both scored. And United were really dynamic up front. And I'm not saying that we did with Eric. It was just a different kind of performance. And it was like, it's the first time you saw the future traditional front two, which is what we moved to for a few years after that. We brought in York, we brought in Sheringham as well. And we had this kind of like a traditional front two. And the qualities were different and the way that they blended were different. But obviously, the way that we played with Cantona, he'd always been a little bit more withdrawn and played in the play a little bit more, whereas this time it was 2 out-and-out strikers, and that really added a different kind of dimension to the way that United played for maybe 4 years, maybe including some of the Van Nistelrooy era as well. I know that we kind of moved back to a play behind the striker when Van Nistelrooy was there, but it goes to prove, and I'm Cantona's biggest fan, we had an evolution of play and an evolution of style, and sometimes it just fits the players moving forward. And yeah, you're quite right. We were very disciplined. I hadn't really thought about that as much. I just thought, how do we get through this? And we got through it. And I've got to say, I'm Cantona's biggest fan. I'm probably Ugarte's biggest critic, but he was very good against Newcastle. I think maybe it's to do with the pragmatic sensibilities of a player next to him. I thought he was very good, and and we won the game. And look, we've got Wolves next to Old Trafford. We'll talk about Wolves and Leeds as quickly as we can. Wolves, they are playing better since they lost against us at Molineux. I've been keeping track of them because I know we were playing them coming up, and I'm not saying they were unlucky to not get a result at Anfield because I don't think they were good enough, but they were closer. They were better than what they were against us, and they are looking a little bit better. But I think this is the issue, like what you were saying earlier. They already know that they're down, and like we're talking about confidence levels, those kind of things do kind of play on a team. If you can tell, I think even the way that they conceded the goal to Wirtz was so. It was a team who know that they're doomed. They were defending so slack with it. With United's injuries, it is still going to be a tough one. Do you think that they'll get through it with a win? I mean, it'd be a very good win if they do.
Yeah, it will be a very good win. Strange as it sounds, it will be a good win over this period of time. You know, you go through it, and if you can go in your first couple of games and get wins behind you, the ones that follow on after, regardless of who against, makes you feel better. Makes that just things seem to materialise quicker, and you just find yourself in an incredible position in the league, just off the back of a bit of form in a short space of time. I've got to believe they're going to win this game, regardless who isn't there. When you think about injuries, you're up against a side where you're going to have a few selfish players playing for themselves because of the reason behind it is because they're playing to get away.
Yeah,
that's what they're doing, and you can't blame them for that. It's a fact of life. If the manager was going to say anything different and trying to shy away from it, he knows that he's lying to himself, really. But all you're going to do, you're going to get a lot of players who will give everything, but then when it comes to certain bits, they're going to maybe try and do it themselves to sell themselves. They're going to be a lot of energy about them. I mean, because since that game at Molineux, they went to the Emirates, and they should have got something from there. It was just naivety cost them that, but that's the reason why they are where they are.
Yeah,
because the players just haven't got enough about them. So they are showing a little bit at this moment in time. It will disappear at some point as the season goes on. But in this short space of time, they're sticking in there. Their performances haven't been that bad. That will keep them together as well. I'm sure the manager's saying all the right words, but they're coming to Old Trafford. It's a big game. If they was playing a lesser team, of course, in a different stadium, then it might be difficult for the manager to get them. But when you're talking about playing Manchester United over a Christmas period, then straight away, it's one of the best shelves you can be on if you want to sell yourself.
Yeah. That situation, I think it was a couple of years ago that when they won at Old Trafford, Martinho scored, and that was Christmas time. I'm sure of it. It was around that period of time. And then Leeds away. It's going to be next Sunday. Then a good run of form. Calvert-Lewin scoring a lot of goals for them. I saw the sky graph that they put up yesterday. Did you see it of Calvert-Lewin's goals?
I've only heard about it.
And all goals in the exact same position. It's like an on the area graph, and it's like dot 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 dot. They're almost identical. You can imagine he'll score from that position against United because United are the kind of team that adds to that sort of stuff. But all jokes aside, they have done well, and he's doing well there. Surprisingly, because I thought he was doing so well. His career looked like he was being linked with us for like £60 million, and then he couldn't give himself to us in the summer for free. So it tells you a bit about how much his stock has fallen in 3 years. But he's proven himself a decent striker at that level again. And Leeds are doing really well. They're doing really well since they've come up.
Yeah, they've had to rely on home form, got them going.
Yeah.
That's their strength, without a shadow of a doubt. If there's a team in the country, you don't want to go to their stadium when the fans are raucous. It's Ellen Road, and it's because of what the stadium's about. It's not a new stadium; it's an old stadium, and that's where the heart and souls are in old stadiums. The noise levels are better. The acoustics in his brand new stadium, as much as I'll just use that word acoustic. It's not great. It's amplified noise coming out of speakers. That's all it is, on top of fans trying to make a noise. But Ellen Road have got that. It's always been a horrible ground to go to and to play football when they're right. And if you allow them the opportunity to get themselves comfortable and get on top of a game, then you've got big problems, big problems. And we're on about Calvert-Lewin. Everything comes from wide areas, so you have to stop it. So really, in theory, dare I say it, Dallow, please stop a cross. Please stick your leg up. Please make an effort, because it bothers centre halves when fullbacks don't stop crosses. It really hurts them and it affects them. So that's what it is. I mean, I just want the players to understand what they're going into. I knew it as a Fulham and QPR player, and it was horrible to go to. But when I become a Manchester United player, Christ almighty, I never realised anything like that in my life when I went there. And, it's their big game. If they were to get relegated, but if they beat Manchester United, they'd have scarves made.
Yeah.
It's as simple as that. That's what that game means to them. And if they do win that, if they were to beat United in that game, then that could almost really transform their season. That would give them a massive lift if they were to go and do it. And if Calvert-Lewin was to go and score as well, as we heard already, the manager Danny Farker, whatever they call him, Farquhar or whatever, 3 weeks ago, they all wanted him out. Now he's talking about Calvert-Lewin playing for England.
Yeah.
And he might then, if he played for England, would have to put every ball in a 6-yard box and call him Gary Lineker, because he can't score outside of it.
It is an horrible place to go to, but you wouldn't want to lose it, would you? I mean, I'd say you wouldn't want to lose it. That we do lose it regularly from the Premier League, but football's richer for that kind of experience. Like, by the way, that sounds horrible. I'm not saying football's richer for you going there and experiencing horrible racist abuse like you did, but what I mean is like the kind of partisan atmosphere, the horrible, the place that you dread going to, like an Anfield or something like that. That's part of what makes football as good as what it is.
Yeah, it was. I mean, Leeds was racist during my Fulham and QPR days. It was horrific. But I went there as a Manchester United player, and it was about the colour of my jersey. That's how mad it was. When I got called on, I was taking a throw-in, and the first time I played there as a United, because we played them 3 times, didn't we, in a short space of time in 91, 92. And I went there first game. I think it was a League Cup game. They left us on the pitch, and it was quite eerie. They left us, and the fans started hissing. And I went to go and grab a ball, and the fellas come. He just come down, and all of a sudden he just called me a red bee, and I kind of just looked at him like that, and just thought, wow, this is different. This jersey is powerful. That jersey was just powerful, because he'd gone from maybe what he called me before to actually just about that shirt. So or I should say the badge. I don't know if we wore. Yeah, he did wear red. We had the red Adidas, didn't we? So yeah, it was. But the players have to understand it. They're not going into the ones who haven't been there before, and the ones who have been there have got to get those players going and let them understand it. Chelsea went there, and I don't think the Chelsea manager really took it on board. And a lot of those Chelsea players didn't understand how big that game was, because that's another team which they put a lot of try to make into a big game. And Chelsea never got it right. Never got it right, and they lost. And Leeds were, in theory, in my opinion, quite comfortable against them. It's going to be uncomfortable. You've got to match them. It's as simple as that.
Yeah. Leeds Chelsea. It's one of those weird ones that goes back 70s, early
1970s. Yeah.
Yeah. But I love that. Like I said, football's richer for that sort of stuff. And as funny as it is when Leeds go down, it's anticipated when they come back up, and hopefully we can help them go down again. But they are doing well at the moment, and it will be a very tough game at Ellen Road for sure, especially with the squad the way that it is. Hopefully we'll have a couple of players back by then. They were talking about the Wolves game might be too soon for Maguire, De Ligt, and Cobby, but maybe Leeds. we'll see. Get that run of wins going into the new year would be very nice indeed. Well, that's it for this week and for this year, for 2025. It's been a bumpy ride, hasn't it? Let's just come to the comments to close out. Mark O'Connor, all the way down in Oz, he says, Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to you both. Great listening. Mark's, runs the Australian Supporters Club out there.
I met Mark in Thailand. Chucky and Mickey Phelan met him out there. So he's been in my face quite a bit since that time, since June.
Busy guy, Mark. He's always busy doing something. One last comment about from When the Seagulls about his photos at the cliff. He says, I've had the picture of Cantona and Sir Alex on my Facebook. In my safe, I have physical photos of Paul, Lee Sharp, Mark Hughes, Paul Ince, Steve Bruce, and a few more. No disrespect, Paul. I did cry when you left. I cry every Monday morning at 11 o'clock when the podcast's over. Don't worry about it. I'll be doing that. I think I've egged that one on a bit more.
Yeah.
All right. So, thanks for everyone for their participation in the pods this year. Really appreciate it. We'll be back next week, hopefully, to talk about the Leeds and Wolves games. Hopefully, we'll be talking about wins in there. Yeah, I just wanted to say, if you've enjoyed the podcast, if you can give it a like and subscribe, and review on the platform you listen on, would really appreciate that. Paul's book is still available. If you want to hear those stories of Leeds, he goes into them a lot more detail in his book, which is out on Amazon and in all the Waterstones in town. It's got and in the Trafford Centre. Everywhere I've gone, I've seen copies of it. It's in nice places as well. It's got little table placements is in the front of the door and everything. So you can get it. It's around. So go and get it. A great story. And I've been getting good reviews of it back from my friends who've been reading it. But yeah, it's available now on Amazon. Shelved the book enough there, and that's it for this year. Go out the way that you mean to. Go out swinging, plugging books. Happy New Year, everyone. Have a great one. Hope that whatever 2026 has got in store for you is positive and exciting. And thank you for sticking with us this year. Have a good one.